20. It's the finale in Florida 400 here for the Superspeedway Cup Series on LSRTV. Myself, Rachel Whiteford, and of course the lovely voices of James Pike and Brian Macklin here with you tonight as 4 drivers go into the final round. All 4 with a mathematical chance of taking the win tonight, taking the championship. But realistically, James, we have 2 names on our play card. Points leader tonight, Corey Henry. He's leading the way. This is his race to lose. Chris Passini, he sits 10 points backwards in the best chance to usurp the crown. Brandon Chaburko, he's back 16 points and in final contention. Rodney Warford, he's 24 points back. He needs a miracle.
But that's the thing about Superspeedway and restrictor plate racing, isn't it? Is that you would think, especially if we came into a final race like this and you saw the margin that, like Rodney Wofford has to make up to Corey Henry. You say, 24 points, that's impossible, right? But anything can happen on restrictor plate tracks. That's sort of the beauty and brilliance of them, and the beauty and brilliance of this series that obviously plays them out. So, yes, you would think, in theory, that Rodney Wofford might be out of it, that Brandon Chaburko might be out of it, and it's just Passini and Henry. But, technically speaking, all 4 of those drivers have a shot. And I think as far as they're concerned, that's all they need.
It certainly is. And Daytona International Speedway, a track not to be trifled with. Of course, this track, 2.5 miles in length, 4 banked corners, 31 degrees of banking. That's 3 stories high. The tri-oval banked 18 degrees, and even a backstretch. That's just a little friendly 2 degrees of banking there thrown in to make things interesting on that back super stretch, of course, here at Daytona International Speedway. The racing tonight is going to be furious. We have a good field tonight, guys, of course, looking at in the numbers of 25 cars on the track for this final round. Qualifying currently underway for our field this evening as we get ourselves set for the showdown. This season, from start to finish, has been a triumph of racing here in the Superspeedway Cup Series, and that's been down to you, the viewers at home. We certainly here at LSRTV have had a fantastic time bringing you this action, and I'll be sad to see this season end. But you know what? In just a couple of weeks, the next season will begin, and we start this all over again with another fresh chance for drivers to get their way into the history books of the Superspeedway Cup Series. Brian, great to have you here tonight, as always. The chances are going to be interesting, and Corey Henry, he's always been a quiet contender, but tonight is his chance to be loud.
Absolutely, and for Corey Henry, he's just got to do one thing tonight, and that is be the highest running or finishing runner of the 4 contenders for this championship. If he comes into this race and he finishes ahead of his 3 contenders, Chris Passini, Rodney Wofford, and Brandon Chaburko, he's the champion. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter if they finish at the very back. They can finish the last 4 positions in this race, and he's going to be the champion. So he's got the best seat in the house for tonight as far as that's concerned. He's got the least amount of pressure. If you are Chris Passini, if you're Rodney Wofford, if you're Brandon Chaburko, you've got to win and lead the most laps and hope that your competitors have problems throughout the race. And the problem is they've got to have more than one problem, Rachel, because we have the reset in this series that allows them to get a fresh car. So if they have one accident early in the race, you have to hope for them to have another one in order to make sure that you're going to win that championship.
You certainly do, of course. And well, folks, coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series here is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Get it today at joel-real-timing.com. That's joel-real-timing.com. And you can use the same software we at LSRTV use to bring the timing to you in these broadcasts. The race will be starting very shortly. We have only a minute left on the qualifying clock. And right now, Rod Flag signaling his intent that he will not go quietly into the night here under the lights at Daytona. Looking like he's on provisional pole. Rod Flag in second. Right now, the second in third. Passini back in 4th. This could be interesting. Corey Henry could only manage 7th, James.
Only 7th, but to some degree, it doesn't necessarily matter where you start here. I think the big key for all 4 of our championship contenders is just to make sure that you make it through without any sort of damage. And, yes, you have the one reset for your car if you end up in trouble early, but obviously you don't want to use that, lap 15, 20, 25. So I think for those 4 drivers in particular, you just take it easy and you try and make it to, you know, say lap 50, lap 60, lap 70, 75. And then when we get to about that 35 to 25 to go range, that's when I think you start trying to find your way around and make your moves up towards the front of the field in your effort to win a championship.
You certainly do tonight, and 94 laps of racing here tonight will see us to that checkered flag. The weather conditions tonight, and it's not 94 laps, it's 100 laps because we're at Daytona Beach. I got that one slightly wrong. The weather conditions tonight, 78 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy under the dark skies of Florida. Winds from the north at 2 miles an hour. Humidity is in the mid-range for this race, so things should be pretty standard for these guys. And well, 100 laps of racing lies ahead. 100 long laps. They may only be in about a 50-second range when you're up to speed, but that can seem like an eternity for these guys. Brian, before we go over to our qualifying results and the grid order for tonight's event, we'll take first picks. Who do you have your money on for this evening?
Well, for the race, I don't necessarily think it's going to be one of the championship contenders. I think you're going to see them approach this race a little bit differently. Unless you are Rodney Wofford or Brandon Chaburko or Chris Passini, I don't think you're going to see them get up there and do it. I actually think the guy that won last week is going to go 2 in a row, and that's Andrew Berger.
It's a great pick. James, who's your money on for this one?
I have a feeling that after a very strong running in the East versus West and the Rest Challenge didn't totally play out for him the way he wanted to. He was right up there at the front until the very, very end of it, ran into some trouble, had some damage, and fell back a bit. But I think Seth DeMerchant's got the speed, got the pace, and is going to find a way to get up through the front of this field. And I think he'll be at least in contention to win. But you never quite know. There's never a sure bet with these restrictor plate races in terms of this person or that person is going to win the race outright.
It certainly is. And as the cars prepare to get ready to roll off the pit road here for our pace lap, we're going to go through your LSRTV starting grid. On the pole for tonight's finale here in the Superspeedway Cup Series, Rodney Wofford out front on row number 1 on the inside. On the outside, Rod Flagg. Row number 2 will be Ray Rittenhouse a second, and Brandon Chaburko, one of the contenders. Row number 3 has another chase racer, Chris Passini and Paul Savant. Row number 4, Frank Basile III and Corey Henry, another chase racer. And row number 5, Scott Warren and Andrew Berger. James?
Ramon Evans will begin from the 11th position this evening. It'll be Tom Dreiling who starts in the 12th spot. Robert Groover begins from 13th, and then Brandon Monsivais starts 14th. Kelly Dahl will begin tonight from the 15th position. Travis Brown starts 16th. 17th is where you'll find Michael Cozy Jr. He's joined on the outside of row 9 by Zach Hale in the number 62. Mike Thiel will begin from the 19th position, and then Dan Harrington will round out your top 20.
Certainly will. Starting in 21st place, Mike Schultz. Behind them, the non-qualifiers, Seth DeMerchant, Dinner Osborne, Gary Champion, Jimmy Coleman, and Jason Kinzer. Well, the field is set for tonight's grand finale in the series. And guys, you at home, we up in the booth, of course, Cisco Scaramuza producing tonight's event. We're all super stoked to see what will happen in tonight's finale here. Who can take the flag? We have the first 4 rows, each containing a chase driver. 4 cars that can win this race based on conditions that may happen or may not. 4 chances, 4 drivers, 4 victories. But either way, this race will end and we will be crowned with a victor. As we get towards the banking of turns 3 and 4 here at Daytona, we'll be going green flag racing in just a few seconds time here. The pace car in the field roll out to the banking of turn number 4 now, as the pace car will take the long, hard left-hand turn down the pit road, leaving the field in the command of Rodney Wofford in that mellow yellow number 7. Green flag will wave here at Daytona. Round number 20 is go.
Oh, good.
Big jump by the field as they head into turn number 1, and the outside abandoned early. Rod Flagg and the 22 of Chaburko up high. Rittenhouse second, well, had no choice there. He got forced high by Henry, and we have 2 chase drivers lining up. 1-2 on the inside lane here as they head up the backstretch. teammates, in fact. Wofford and Piscini lining up for this one. Behind him, the 94 there of Basili the third. Behind him, Savant and the 12 of Henry lined up just a little bit further back. Chaburko drops back, leaving Rittenhouse second and Flag on the outside.
Very impressive to see how all of these drivers have managed to get down very quickly to the bottom within one lap. Not necessarily something that we normally see here at Daytona, but everybody trying to get down to the bottom as best they can. You have to go all the way back to Ray Rittenauer in fifth, now about sixth or seventh as he gets passed by Brendan Chaburko on the inside there. That's your first side-by-side battle. Everybody up here in this top five, top six, all riding in line, which I think would be a pretty good indicator that everybody just wants to make it.
Absolutely, making it early on is going to be the critical component for these drivers, as everyone wants to settle in place and get this one started off in a good fashion here. Brian, though, you want to start making some moves early, testing how things play out for the rest of the race.
Oh, absolutely. You have 100 laps to get to the front. You need to test early, like you just said, in these first 5, 10, 15 laps, and just get a feel for what your car is capable of doing. See if you can pull out to the outside line. Find a couple of partners that can get you closer to the front of the field. If it doesn't work and you drop to the back, it's no big deal because you have plenty of time to make it back up. This is the time right now to make those moves, and we now see as some of these guys are moving to the outside, points leader coming into tonight, Corey Henry has jumped up to that outside line. He's got a push from Chaburko, and as soon as I say that, Chaburko goes to the bottom of the racetrack, and we're already seeing these championship contenders do not intend on working with one another, it doesn't appear, as they just completely avoided drafting with each other down the back straightaway. And now Chaburko looks back to the outside. He stays in line, though, and waiting to see if he's going to jump back out there. I really like the decision to try to make some moves early, though. Figure out what you have in your car and find your friends early so that you know what to do late in the race.
It certainly has right now in the front of your field. Single file now as we're on to lap number 4 here, coming through turn number 2 onto the backstretch. Your front of your field fans out 4, 5 wide as some cars slow down in your mid-pack there. Big grouping of cars as they all, some of them still below the line. One of them, Brandon Cruz Monster Vice, down below the yellow line. We'll take a look what happened. Oh, it was a near spin by the 83 car of Ramon Evans with an assist from the number 9, James.
Really tight there, but everybody was able to use that extra space, especially coming off of turn 2 in here at Daytona. You have some room to avoid things if things get a little bit hairy, a little bit squirrely in the back of the pack, so they were able to sort themselves out, not end up causing our first caution of the evening. But we have 2 split packs now. That's the interesting thing. You see Corey Henry right at the tail end of our lead pack, and then it's about 4 or 5 car lengths to Ray Rittenauer, so that could be something to watch. We may end up with 2 packs here of drivers, one group wanting to race towards the front of the field and try and control this race from the front, and one group that's just trying to sit back, but we have cars going around to the back. 2, 3, 4 cars involved to bring out the first caution of the evening.
It certainly will. Brian, can you tell us what's been happening?
Well, it looks like going off into turn 3, the 06 machine got into the left rear of the 61 of Mike Thiel, and that just sent those guys around. Tom Drilling was the driver of the number 06. Just looks like he drifted up off that yellow line just a little bit, Rachel, and he just kind of slid up into the left rear of the number 61 machine, kicked him around. A couple other cars got involved. Looks like the number 11 machine of Jason Kinzer got a piece of it, as well as the 82 of Dan Harrington. And it looks like everybody else made it through pretty cleanly, actually. Just a pretty small wreck for the most part.
Certainly does. And it was confined to the rear of your field, but these things could happen anywhere in the pack. You saw that there on the LSRTV replay for you on your screens. But this places us under caution here on lap number 5. It'll be lap number 10. We'll be a 10th of the way through your race by the time we go back to green flag racing. Of course, James, this does extend our window for the pit cycle by about 5 laps. We should see a lot of our field come in here for fuel. This puts them into about a lap 30 position for a green flag stop, should we reach that number.
I would think, we've run enough laps here that you can at least consider it. I don't think it's totally definite that you'll see the field come down pit road, but I think most cars and most drivers here in this race will try and take advantage of some tires and some fuel because it never hurts.
You say that, and they don't do that at all. Brendan Chaburko is going to fake it as cars from the mid-pack will come down, but, well, your top 4 cars will not pit. Wofford, Savant, Chaburko, Piscini do not pit. The 12 does not pit. Number of cars behind them also going to stay out at this time. Ramon Evans, even after his half spin there, will stay out on the racetrack. Behind them, the number 9 of Robert Grover, as we've had Warren and Basilia the third go down pit road. Written out a second, also in his box. That's his Rod Flag from your second place starting position. Number of drivers in the mid-pack taking some gambles here, Brian.
Well, for a lot of these drivers, this is just one last race to end the season. They're not racing for the championship. They're really just racing for an opportunity to win. So why not give yourself a little bit of extra fuel? If anything, if you have a green flag pit stop later, it gives you an opportunity to take less fuel under green, which is very big here at these restrictor plate tracks, because if you have a shorter pit stop under green by 1 or 2 seconds, that's 1 or 2 seconds you have on the rest of the field, which could potentially put you in the race lead and in a position to control the race later on.
Certainly does, of course, and an interesting perspective to look at here, James, is Rodney Warford not pitting. Of course, this means some drivers will be able to stay out longer if we get to a green flag cycle, but his gamble, I stay out front, there's less people that can wreck and take me out, and more people that can wreck and take out other chase drivers. So a rather economical gamble here from Warford. He wants to keep himself in as clean a position as possible. He might be able to salvage something from this race.
Yeah. I think we just have to watch and be curious. We know track position can matter here at the plate tracks, but it's sort of fluid as well. You know, can find a way to make things work here, either from the front or from the back. I think the key is that you just don't want to be in the middle of the field at this point, because 9 times out of 10, that's where trouble starts. That's where bad things happen. That's where wrecks begin, and that's where your most likely users of the one quick fix early on in this race are probably going to reside. So I think as long as you stay out of the center of this field and find a way either towards the very back or the very front, I'd like to think you'd be in good shape.
Certainly could be a good prediction from you in that regard, as Tom Drayling will actually take the penalty for that incident. He'll go to the back of your field. Although he's on pit road currently getting damage repaired, so Tom Drayling will be at the back anyway. This will be up onto lap number 8. And Brian, it's early days, but Chaburko, he's taking this one seriously. He qualified well, unlike usual, and he's keeping himself at the sharp end.
Yeah, absolutely. He's doing a really good job staying at the front of the field. He doesn't typically qualify as well, like you mentioned. He usually is a mid-pack qualifier or doesn't even take a lap sometimes in qualifying, but I think he realizes just how important track position is going to be in this race to stay up there and be able to contend for the championship. He comes into tonight 16 points out, and realistically, his only chance is to go up there, try to lead the most laps and win the race, and then hope that his competitors have some issues. So he's got his work cut out for him, but I think we've certainly seen that 22 team raise to the occasion in this race. They know what's at stake in order for them to try to get a championship here tonight, and they have certainly raised their bar of expectation for it.
Certainly has, and we'll have to find out what this expectation can be achieved and which ones can perhaps not. Corey Henry has been very quiet so far. He's been keeping himself out of the racing, staying low, staying in a position to do what he has to do here, James. We've not heard much of a peep from him, but he knows he's in good stead if things finish where they are. Even if he finishes 4th behind these guys in line, he still wins on points.
Yeah, that's the key. If you're in that 12 machine, you just find a way to stay up there. Don't worry about what happens. And I think the beauty of being the points that are coming into this is that you get the ability to race your race. And it's a concept that sounds so simple, but you really get down into the intricacies and details of trying to plot out a strategy for a race like this. And if you're in the position that he's in, you really don't have to worry about any of those, because it's pretty straightforward. You finish either as the best or close enough to the other drivers that you're competing against, you win the championship. So it makes it very, very easy for him to just kind of plot his own race. And I think it gives a little bit more freedom and independence to the strategy that he gets to run when you compare it to the likes of Piscini and Chaburko and Wofford.
Certainly is. Just to remind people at home, the points as they stand. Current leader Corey Henry, minus 10 points from him, is sitting his teammate Chris Piscini. Third place and minus 16 points from Corey Henry, Brandon Chaburko. 24 points back from your leader. It's Rodney Warford. Those are your 4 chase drivers. Of course, Jason Altmans and Mark Jorgensen Jr. no longer in contention. They just, well, haven't been here, unfortunately. They've realized it's not their season. They're no longer involved in these final races, but things have been close so far. And things are going to stay close as things come to the final now. We're going to go for our restart here on lap number 9, on to lap number 10. The pace car will pull to pit road. Green flag will fly. And it's 3 chase drivers to the inside. It's Wofford, Chaburko, and Henry. Passini above them, second in line. Savant on the outside. The gap will close up, and Passini's going to be hung up high as Chaburko makes a strike early on, and he'll pull up before dropping back in behind Wofford. Typical Chris Passini there, James, unable to quite make up his mind.
Kind of stuck there between 2 lines, and that's a dangerous spot to be, especially if we get down towards the last 20 and 10 laps of this race. You make that same kind of move and you end up, kind of going halfway on something. 9 times out of 10, that's a recipe for disaster. So he'll want to find a way to make sure that he just commits to whatever decision he makes later on in this race. But I get the feeling that with the experience that he has, he'll know that he needs to be a little bit more decisive when we get towards race end. Meanwhile, Henry had a peek around the outside of Chaburko there a little bit. Thought better of it, though, took back in line, and it's the same story as it was during that first green flag run. You have to go back to Servant, who's now back to about 8th, 9th here as the 01 of Travis Brown gets around him. Could well be 10th here if he can't slide in line, but he does. So finds a way to get in front of Kelly Dahl, and that should put him in P10 now. But your first 10 drivers all one by one. Single file racing as they go into turn 3.
You say that, but it's the entire field single file at this time, which is a first for Superspeedway Cup Series. The guys being patient, wanting to make this race one to remember. They need to get past lap number 5 next time, so as it stands, your entire field single file, although once again, Brandon Chaburko bucking that trend as we say it. He's taking a look at Rodney Wofford, Brian, just peeking.
Well, the problem is for Brandon Chaburko is he needs to be out front leading laps to try to get the bonus point for leading a lap and for leading the most laps. So he's looking for a way to try to make that move and hoping that he can have somebody go with him. The problem is the points leader, Corey Henry's right on his back bumper, so he knows Corey Henry's not going to make the move with him. He's going to have to make that move by himself at this point, so he's got to be very careful to make sure he doesn't jump out there and leave himself with nobody to work with. But how about the returning 2-time champion of this series, Seth the Merchant, now jumps to the outside line. He goes up there with no help at the moment, looking to see if he's going to get help from Frank Bustiglia behind him. However, he doesn't get the help, and he has to jump back in on the inside line here as they head to 1.
He does indeed, but the 94 will come up with him this time. Could this be the start of something happening up here on the outside for Seth the Merchant and Frank Bustiglia? Will Brandon Chaburko see this as his chance? If they can get up to him, I think there's no reason why, James, we won't see him take the elevator ride to the front. But, well, for now, the experiment did not seem profitable. They pulled back in line.
That's the problem with running up on the outside early on in this race. You're not going to get the support that you need in order to make that work. If you're going to make a run to the front of the field, it can't be just 1 car and 2 cars. It has to be 3, 4, 5 cars that commit and go up top to make something happen in order to make a run towards the front of the field. And I'm sure that if Chaburko had, numbers like that behind him coming, he would totally slide up and take advantage of it. But there just aren't that many drivers willing to go up to the front right now, and as you said, that really kind of hampers his chase to lead the most laps. It's Rodney Wofford that's in the catbird seat, and I think that's just proof of how important it is to qualify on pole here, even though we don't necessarily think that pole matters all that much at Daytona. But with the way this is playing out, this is really falling right into Rodney Wofford's hands. This race is running about as well as he could possibly want it, at least through the first 15 laps.
It certainly is, and Bustiglia the third comes out with the number 1 of Chris Passini, and they have no friends, as we were just talking about. They're on their own up there, but those two holding their own. In fact, they're moving forwards a little bit here to side draft. That side suck seeming pretty strong right now as we get into lap number 15 here, and well, there they go. This is what we expected. Chaburko and Henry also going forwards. Wofford dumped. He'll lose the lead to Brandon Chaburko, who is going to cut down. We know it if he thinks he'll lose the lead. Chaburko to the points.
what an incredible move by Brendan Chaburko right there. He just slid to the bottom of the racetrack, and I promise you, you couldn't have fit a piece of paper between the back bumper of his car and the front bumper of Rodney Wofford's car. They were that close to making contact when he made that move, but he did take the race lead. He moved to the bottom of the racetrack, which leaves points leader Corey Henry out with very little help. He's got Frank Buscaglia on the outside and Chris Passini back there as well, but now Corey drops to the inside line. He gets in behind Rodney Wofford, which allows for Frank Buscaglia to start dropping back as he has no help. But now, as they work down the long back straightaway, the number 9 of Robert Groover jumps up in front of Frank Buscaglia, and he is trying to lead the outside line. The problem is Frank Buscaglia just dropped to the bottom, and we still have just one car out there on the outside line trying to make this happen.
We certainly do, and well, the number 9 there not going to be able to hold on his own. He will start that long, sad procession backwards as nobody's going to willingly give him a hole on the bottom to go down into. The 12, the 22, oh no, we get a line moving possibly up here. This could be his saving grace right now, as DeMerchant's going to push the 12 up the outside lane. Will we see Passini join them? Not at this time, as Chaburko will come up to pull the group forwards. Use this to ride the elevator forward. 3 wide down the backstretch into turn number 3. 3 wide for the lead on lap number 17. Necessary? No. Fun? Definitely.
I think we could qualify that as a miscalculation either on Chaburko or Henry's part. I think initially it was Chaburko who thought that he was going to get a run from DeMerchant and Henry, and they just come up behind him and make it 2x2 at the front of the field. But then he ended up slowing up, and then somehow Henry tried to jump to the outside to avoid Chaburko and got caught all the way on the outside 3 wide and ended up out of the draft completely. So he had to drop back behind that outside line, and even then now you've got cars here just freight training Henry, and Henry's going to go all the way back to about 14, 13, somewhere in that group. I imagine he'll probably slide right behind Robert Groover there on the inside and go take that spot. Meanwhile, though, up at the front of the field, it's DeMerchant and Chaburko who are trying to make that outside lane work, but not quite, as Chaburko makes another bold and daring move. Nothing atypical of what we've seen from him over the course of the Superspeedway Cup season to get down into the inside lane like that. Same thing can be said for Buscaglia, but they all go one by one back to DeMerchant, who's sliding back, but just not that much help coming on the outside at this moment.
Nobody willing to pull out there and give him some help, as we say that Brandon Chaburko does just that. Buscaglia the third will dive up high. Andrew Berger coming out to play on the top side here, as looks like Ricknow will join them. Chaburko dives down low. He's not sure who to commit to at this time. Really playing his own game. He knows he's got a few friends here, Brian, and Chaburko, he's out for number 1 tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Brandon Chaburko knows what's on the table. He knows he's trying to win a championship, and the only way he can do that is to drive like he's the only car on the racetrack, which he does every week anyway. There's no surprise there at all. That's exactly how we expect Brandon Chaburko to drive. Tonight, though, is the one night where he absolutely must do that all night long. The problem is he's got Rodney Wofford and Chris Passini right in front of him, and they are not giving him any room for error here. And now Chris Passini jumps to the outside line. He's going to get a great push down the back straightaway, try to take the race lead away from Rodney Wofford. Does he have the momentum to get clear to the bottom? The answer is no. Wofford was able to pull back up to his doors. They won't go through the middle of 3 and 4 now, and you see it's a battle between 2 of our championship contenders at the front of the field. The problem is the one driver, Corey Henry, the points leader, he's all the way in the back. He's in a safe spot right now. However, this is not where he wants to be as we get closer to the end of the race.
Certainly is, of course, as Chris Passini will lead the front of your field here. Travis Brown on the outside, with Frank Buscaglia the third will sit lonely on the high side, although Seth DeMerchant just behind them could join in here. Looking at this one, Kelly Dahl there, the 99 car towards front. This one, things getting a little dicey, James, at this point. The guys just being a little bit more overzealous than we perhaps like them to be in this final. How long before we see a wreck that will get involved with some of these guys up here at the sharp end?
I think it all depends on how hard they want to push and how hard they want to make things happen this early in the race. We still have 80 laps to go, or I suppose 78 if we're going to be technical, but it rounds out to about 80. So, there's still a lot of time left for things to happen, but sometimes when people start making crazy moves, that sort of escalates the intensity, and you get this sort of mob mentality where everybody just decides to really go for it because they see everyone else around them going for it. So You know, you just kind of have to watch for that. You look at the drivers who can start that sort of move and be that sort of crazy and daring and bold. Cheburko is the one that stands out to me because we know he does that time and time again in this series. And people can sort of feed off that sort of energy and that sort of craziness that he presents week in, week out. But it is a controlled craziness as far as he's concerned because he knows it works. That's why he's in this position in the first place. So it's, I think, on the other drivers to understand the sort of limits that you're working with here and where you want to be and what kind of moves you want to make at this point to try and make things happen the way you want them to. In the meantime, though, Travis Brown is trying to go around the outside of Chris Bassini, and he's got help because they've gone 2 by 2 now, and you've got about 5 or 6 cars on that outside lane all the way back to Robert Groover. Everybody on that outside really starting to work together for the first time all race long.
Certainly looks that way right now as Travis Brown looking set to make his way towards the front of the race here as they'll get through turn number 4. Not going to have the help he needs. Priscilla the third up high, DeMerchant with him. Do we see them going for the 3 wide here? They're going to do it on the front stretch. Through the triangle at Daytona, 3 wide. Travis Brown will be abandoned. Cheburko goes to reinforce him now. This could make things sticky for the guys up high. 3 wide through turns 1 and 2 this time by middle lane, making a momentum there as this draft from both sides really helps shoot them forwards. Cheburko's got the elevator he finally wanted. This could definitely help Travis Brown as well. Bassini, though, will hold strong on the bottom side right now as they'll maintain this through the entire lap, although problems! And this is exactly what we spoke about, folks. That's what I call a lot of wrecked backup cars. We'll get that replay for you in just a second. I think we saw that 3 wide going on, perhaps a little too long. The replay, hopefully up for you now. You'll see there a little tap. The number 9 car getting in the wrong place at the right time. Robert Groover taps the car of Cheburko, puts him down into the rear corner panel there of Wofford, and everything goes wrong at once, James.
And you look at that, I think Bassini was the only one of the championship contenders that got out of that, and everybody else is going to have to use the quick fix. So here we are, lap 25, and it's exactly what we've been talking about here in the opening stages of this race, that, you know, you can use the quick fix early, but you've got to be extra careful if you end up in a position where you have to use it this early, because now you have to go 3/4 of this race and just hope and pray that you don't run into any sort of trouble. Because if you do, you're going to have to go down pit road and fix it under normal time, and that will effectively take you out of contention for the win, obviously. And in the cases of the 3 drivers that got caught up in that wreck that are racing for the championship, the title fight altogether. So Bassini, I think, ends up, if there's a winner out of a wreck, he's the one, I guess. But just have to wait and see. But it's definitely got to be a very reassuring thing on his mind that he still has the quick fix, whereas all of the other drivers that are racing for this title don't now, and we still have 3/4 of the race to go.
Well, this changes everything. Brian, I don't think it's possible to describe the size of the grin underneath the visor of Chris Bassini's helmet right now, but he's gone from being second in the points to finding himself in the catbird seat for this championship. He has what they don't have: a second chance.
Oh, absolutely, and they're just finishing up their round of pit stops there. 4 tires and fuel for Chris Bassini. He looks like he won the race off pit road. It's a pretty close battle between him and Seth DeMerchant, but you're absolutely right, Rachel. He's the only driver out of the 4 championship contenders that still has that reset in his back pocket, and that's exactly what he wants, because now if another big wreck happens, even if he gets collected in it, he's okay because he's going to come in and get a fresh car. If his contenders are caught up in it, they're more than likely going to sit on pit road for quite a while and be fixing some damage, which will ultimately take them out of the championship picture. So certainly exactly what Chris Bassini wanted to see in order to give himself the best opportunity to go out here and try to win the championship here tonight.
This certainly is. And Rod Flag going to be looking like he's out front for the moment, based on pit cycle. Flag not pitting, of course, had pitted earlier on. This could be an interesting choice from him to stay out on the racetrack, but behind him, Seth DeMerchant, looking like Andrew Berger, Ramon Evans, and a few others to name but a few. will line up as we'll get things sorted out across the timing line. Don't forget, folks, Joel Real Timing is the official sponsor of LSRTV, and they sponsor our coverage here of the Super Speedway Cup Series. Of course, it's brought to you by joel-real-timing.com. Don't forget, you can get it yourself today at joel-real-timing.com.
Really, really good software, I think. I'll be honest, when I go onto the sim and I go participate, I love the ability to get the notification when you're getting close to the end of a fuel run, and you get that sort of blip through the audio, and you really get a handle of how much you need to save or not save within those last few laps before you come down pit road. But there's just so much more data and analytics that you can do with that as well that you wouldn't necessarily think. So it's one of those, you really have to dig into it to see just how much you can use it, but then you really spend some time with it and you understand how powerful a tool that can be. And if you want to take your ability as a driver in the sim to the next level, I think JRT is one of the best ways to do it, hands down.
Absolutely fantastic. You can even see exactly how long your pit stops were. Speaking of pit stops, folks, we're going to go to a quick commercial break. Join us on the other side as we go back to Green Flag Racing.
So cool, yeah. Nate, what are you working on at the moment?
So I'm working on the animation for the game. We're working on getting pit crews fully developed, and that involves a lot of moving parts. So I'm going in and making sure that each moving part can dovetail smoothly into the next one, so that when you pull in for a pit stop, it looks like the real thing, as opposed to a bunch of jumbled pieces that suddenly stop and then go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so cool, but why aren't you working on the time model? Nothing?
Welcome back to live coverage here of the Super Speedway Cup Series here on LSRTV. At number 28, and we're going back to Green Flag Racing this time by. Safety car will head back down pit road, leaving us here at the end of what would have been a pit cycle. The green flag will fly for the man who was started second place today, Rod Flag. Alongside him, Chris Bassini, the man who just had the break of his racing career. And against turn number one, it's going to be a good restart by the outside line. One of the best we've seen this season. Bassini holding equal there at Flag, as behind him Berger, the 99, 76 of Warren, the 87 of Rittenau, and Bassini the third behind him. All holding tight here in a fantastic display of restart prediction there, James, by the outside line.
2 by 2 so far, but yes, it looks like everybody towards the back of the field beginning to come single file. It seems for the moment, though, you look around Ray Rittenauer, Jimmy Coleman, and that group of people, but Jillia's back there as well, and they've managed to keep it that way. So maybe they want to do a little bit more racing in this segment. Not necessarily certain what the plan will be, but whatever happens back there will determine everything, and then we get one car around, and that is Rodney Wofford. And if I'm not mistaken, He's already used his quick fix, so that could be his championship chances right there. Yellow flag out again, and it could be Walford's night over.
Oh, that is his chances over. We can scratch Cheburko and Wofford out of their championship hopes for tonight, as a caution off the restart will end their race. We'll take a look at what just happened there, because I want to find out what happened. A tap on the left rear quarter from the number 11 of Jason Kinzer, and the rookie, a lap down rookie in fact, tipping Wofford into the Armco barrier. And Cheburko was nearly through until he collided with a spinning car, the number 16 machine of Mike Schultz. 2 chase drivers are out. The lowest 2 in points, admittedly, but 2 drivers who had a chance to win this race. And Brian, they're nowhere too.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a wild race now. Corey Henry is actually being shown as 1 lap down, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. But unfortunate circumstances for 2 of the championship contenders. I feel so bad for Rodney Walford and for Brandon Cheburko. They made it this far into the championship battle and came so close. And unfortunately, they had dug themselves a little bit of a hole here tonight that they're now definitely not going to be able to dig out of. But just such a long season for these drivers to come up this close to having a chance at winning the championship. And for Rodney Walford, it would have been a shot at his first championship if he could have pulled it off tonight. So unfortunate for him. But we do have still a bit of a championship battle between the 2 highest running drivers in the championship battle here tonight. Chris Passini, who is being shown as your race leader and provisionally would be the points leader as of right now. He's ahead of Corey Henry, who currently is 17th on the racetrack and is 1 lap down.
Certainly. And James, I don't think I'd like to be a fly on the wall in the garages after this race. There's going to be some heated discussions, I think.
Heated to say the least, but I think we also have to accept that that's part of the nature of the beast. Restrictor plate racing is the closest thing to roulette we have, and maybe all of motor racing, not just NASCAR racing. And sometimes things like that happen because when you move as quickly as these cars do, it's 190 miles an hour. It's hard for any human being to react to something quickly enough to avoid a crazy accident. Much less these drivers that have the sort of experience. To some degree, we're running at a threshold where that sort of experience, especially on the plate tracks like these drivers all have, doesn't necessarily matter. So you're just moving too fast for people to react within a decent amount of time to actually save themselves in a situation like that. So, yes, unfortunate for the likes of Cheburko and Walford, but sometimes those things happen, and it's just one of those things that you have to accept and understand that when you run at plate tracks like this series does, that's going to happen.
We'll scratch 2 from our scorecard. Brandon Cheburko and Rodney Walford will have to come back next season for their shot at the championship. That leaves Corey Henry and Chris Passini to fight for this title. And right now, in the points, Henry just waving around now to rejoin the back of the lead lap. Chris Passini leads by points and leads by track position. He's also leading on number of backup cars, Brian. It's got to feel like a great position to be in.
I mean, you're leading the race. You haven't used your reset. You know that 2 of your contenders are out of the race already, and the other contender that's still in it can't get caught up in anything else. Of course, this is the best feeling in the world for Chris Passini. I think any driver would dream for a position like he's in right now. And all he's got to do is just keep leading laps, stay out of trouble. Don't use that reset, and he's going to be good to go. Of course, he can use the reset if he absolutely has to, but why put yourself in a position to do that? You know what situation your only other competitor left in this field is in, so take it easy, be smart, and wait for the chips to fall where they need to fall for you.
Certainly was. And of course, only one of the 4 drivers who have won a championship previously was Brandon Cheburko back in season number 7. All 3 of the others were going to be first-time contenders. So this could be a big deal for these 2. No, not could be. This is a big deal for Corey Henry and Chris Passini. And the best part is, they're teammates. So no matter what happens here, this is a fight between friends. A fight of brothers, if you will, James. And blood fighting blood? this just makes it ever the juicier for us.
Especially in this era of data sharing, and you see it week in, week out in the Cup Series. We've heard Denny Hamlin in particular talk about how that has completely changed the way that they approach weekends, with the ability to go pull data down, pull setups down for their teammates. And even here in the sim, we see it in other series that run as well. If you watch the Cars Esport Tour here on Wednesday nights on LSRTV, then you'll know that two of the top contenders in that series, Matt Cucker and Christian Peterson, are teammates who happen to be 1 and 2 in points in the main class there, and share setups, practice together, share all sorts of data, and run up at the front of the field. If you find somebody else that's really, really committed, then you can push yourselves to a completely different level, and then you end up in a position like Pizzini and Henry are, where you're just kind of running out there on a different plane to everybody else, and you get to fight it out all amongst yourselves for the title, which is a weird spot to be in, I would think, but I have to imagine it would also be a fun spot as well.
Oh, it has to be the best possible spot for these guys, because hopefully, no matter what happens, they'll still be friends and teammates after this one. But Corey Henry has to certainly feel in a strong, strong position tonight. Out front, with little to get in his way. Corey Henry, he has to get through a whole field of cars, hell-bent, it would seem, on ending his chance of a championship. Lap number 34 is in the books. The field heads into turn number 1, and we'll go 2 by 2 for the restart here. We'll restart onto lap 35 of 100. It's hard to believe that so much for Brian has happened in only the first third of this race.
Oh man, there has been so much action tonight. We've had 3 and 4 wide racing. We've had a couple of big wrecks that have potentially put a dent in the championship hopes for a driver like Corey Henry. We've had a big wreck that has put a dent in the hopes and actually killed the hopes of a championship for Brandon Chaburko and Rodney Walford. This has been one of the more exciting races we've seen in the last few weeks. It seems like they've been a little tame over the last couple of weeks, waiting for this race so they could just be absolutely chaotic throughout the entire evening.
Certainly is, and we'll head into turn number 3 now for the restart. It'll be Chris Pizzini and Rod Flagg on the front row number 2. Berger and the 99 of Kelly Dahl, Travis Brown, Scott Warren ridden out a second, and Jimmy Goldman. Behind them, Ron Evans and Michael Cozy Jr. rounding out your top 10 in the field. Corey Henry is mired back in the 15th spot. 18 cars on the lead lap so far today, and only 18 cars still running in this race. Out so far, Kinzo, Wofford, Chaburko, Schultz, Harrington, Hale, Osborne, and Champion, as the cars will head into turn number 1. And the green flag will fly.
Green flag out again. Pizzini with a decent restart. Same thing can be said though for Rod Flagg as well. Keeps with him on the outside lane, and then you've got Dahl and Berger there back behind those two. Then Brown, Warren, everybody trying to find their place within this draft. And the answer, I think, for Warren is to go down to the inside and join that bottom lane, and that forces Dahl down there. So now Flagg is stuck on the outside lane with not much help coming until you get back to Jimmy Coleman, who is currently in the 8th position, now trying to come up through the field to 7th and to 6th, but still a ways to go for Flagg. He'll drop back to them, but it'll be about 5th when they finally rejoin and create that second group up top.
Certainly does, and the second group outside did not have the restart they wanted this time by Pizzini, controlling that start. He's in there in the front spot right now. Flagg on the outside, well, he is dropping back. 78 with him there of Jimmy Coleman, but that's his only help at this time. Inside has the strongest run here we've seen so far. Nothing really in their way. Corey Henry is working his way up right now. The 9 will pull down in front of him. Time will tell how this will play out, Brian.
Yeah, we just got to wait and watch. But how about Andrew Berger? He came to the front last week at Talladega, and he ended up getting the victory. He's the winningest champion in this series, a 4-time champion of this series. Unfortunately, did not make it to this round of the championship battle, but he's out here in the last 2 races trying to make a statement saying, hey, I may not have been in the championship battle this season, but I'm still one of the best restrictor plate racers in this series, and I can still get the job done. And I look at that 24 machine, and I said at the beginning of the race, he's my favorite to go back-to-back and win 2 in a row in this series, and really make sure that these guys are on high alert for next season as far as his ability to go out there and win the championship is concerned. I think you have to keep an eye on this 24, not only tonight, but throughout next season as well.
Certainly will do. Some heated discussions going on amongst the drivers who are out of this race, and well, if this was real life, there'd have been a punch up on pit road a few moments ago here as Chris Bassini leads away with Andrew Berger, Travis Brown, Kelly Dahl and Scott Warren, your top 5 at this time. Single file racing here in the Superspeedway Cup Series. The outside line though, typically, James, has been a real struggling point for these races. We've seen some fantastic restarts, but they do appear to be the minority of cases rather than the norm. Getting the outside really going, getting that second car in line really moving is an art form. Predicting and almost jumping the leader, it's hard work.
Really, really hard work, especially this early on in the race when you have a lot of drivers that don't really want to try and do anything like that. I think we're really beginning to hit a point in this where people just want to make it to the end so they can compete for the victory, which, as far as I'm concerned, if I were out there racing on track, I wouldn't disagree with that. I would think that'd be a smart move, and you can see it now. Everybody is single file, so good news for Bassini. Already has the points lead, and now we'll be able, I think, to click off maybe 10, 15, potentially 20 laps here up in front if he can keep it up here, and if anything crazy doesn't happen. The only thing that's going to root him out of the lead is if someone gets a run between Berger or Brown or Dahl and they decide to make something happen, or they get the back of him somehow and loosen him up just a little bit.
Certainly are, as right now the second line starts to form up again. The 9, the 3, the 54 and the 8, along with the 10 in front of them here, getting an outside line going. A big run from behind. They'll run themselves into the back there of the 10, shooting him forwards. Oh, as the 8 blows his motor, Dana Osborne will be out of the motor race. Osborne was 25 laps down. Was out there running on the track, and a blown motor will end the race for Dana Osborne here, as things just not going their way.
Man, absolutely. That has been a rough night for the number 8 machine. Unfortunately, like you said, though, he was already many laps down, 25 laps down when that happened. So he was already having a pretty rough night, and it just got a little bit rougher for him. But for Chris Bassini, he's very happy with how things are going for him. And I just crunched some numbers, Rachel, and I was looking at the points. And for Chris Bassini to win this championship, if he can hold the race lead and lead the most laps here tonight, all he has to do is win the race, with Corey Henry finishing no better than 4th, and Chris Bassini could walk away with the championship here tonight. Now, you look at, you hear that and you say, okay, well, that seems pretty simple. He can finish 4th or worse with Chris Bassini leading the most laps, and he's going to win the championship. The problem is, if you have Corey Henry being consistent like he has through much of this season, you're not necessarily going to get that finish, because Corey Henry has had the most top 5s out of any of our championship contenders coming into this season. That makes things very tough for a guy like Chris Bassini. He knows how consistent Corey Henry is going to be, and knows that more than likely he's going to get up there and get the finish he needs here tonight. So he's still got his work cut out for him as we get to the end of this race.
Certainly is. The outside line forming up again. Brown and Flag gonna get something going. The 9 joining in. Groover, he was involved in one of those wrecks a little earlier on, but for now, playing it patient. He's fast, we know that. He's up here with the big boys at the front, and he's making a good showing of himself after that one incident. 2 of them on the outside now, a little bit lonely. One driver we've really noticed something good from here today, James, has been that 0-1 car of Travis Brown, a newcomer to the series, but has shown some real chops of racing.
A really good and strong ability to read the draft coming, especially from behind. That's what I've noticed with that 0-1 car. Has a very good sense for when people are coming up top and when he needs to slide up, and when it's better to be on the bottom of the racetrack. Not necessarily a lot of help behind him at this moment, just Ron Flag there, but For the most part, Brown's done a very admirable job of keeping that car up towards the front of the field. And I think especially when you run on the outside, if people decide to bunch it up and check up just a little bit, like Berger did there a few moments ago, it gives you the chance to race back towards the front as well. So just makes it very easy for that 01 to kind of pick his spots and figure out where he wants to be, where he needs to be.
Certainly is in one car. We'll keep an eye on here. Kelly Dahl having a fantastic race here today. Not quite the season they wanted to see, but a strong running here in the finale nonetheless. Riding just ahead of Scott Warren, just behind Andrew Berger there. Third on the inside line. Kelly Dahl making a good showing. The Canadian driver having a fantastic one tonight. The 01, we mentioned a new driver to the series, as is the 9 behind him. A number of new fast drivers have entered this series in the late going, of course, Brian, and that's made things a little bit more colourful.
It has been absolutely incredible all night long, but how about these drivers on the outside line trying to make that second groove work? Travis Brown in the 01, the driver that's leading that outside line, and they're finally beginning to get that push they need as they head to turn 1. You see the 01, he's inching ahead of Chris Bassini, but now that they get to the corner, the inside line is going to prevail, and you see Chris Bassini tries to inch back ahead. However, the outside line does a pretty good job maintaining this time with just 3 cars out there. And I've got to say, Rachel, I'm very surprised that that second group is working as well as it is with just 3 cars out there. But how about Travis Brown? He goes to the point down the back straightaway and takes the race lead away from Chris Bassini. He moves to the inside line. That's going to leave Rod Flagg and the number 9 machine of Robert Groover out there all by themselves on the outside line, and they have already begun to feel the effects of that as they are slipping backwards here as they head to turn 1 here on the front stretch.
So he does, of course. It's into turn 1 they will ride right now with Travis Brown in the 01 out front for the first time tonight. A point for leading a lap for him in one of his few first races here in the series. Flagg in the 9 dropping back. Points for noticing that's the number 10 and the number 9 running in order there. Although my OCD wants them to be the way around in their running order. Out front, Andrew Berger will look up high, but will drop back down again. Not what he wanted to have happen this time. Dahl a little bit wobbly on the low side there. As they'll run through the banking of turns 1 and 2. Just getting a little bit of apron there earlier than he wanted to. Corey Henry in the 12. Made 2 spots back. James from the restart here up into the 12th spot. As they'll cross the line. Not much ground to make positions though, with this outside line not being as strong as it could be.
Sort of struggling for pace now, and it feels like no one really has a sort of impetus to try and get up there and make things happen, though. You know, you might see it now, though. Of course, as soon as I say that, here goes Chris Bassini to the outside of Travis Brown for the race lead. So, commentator's curse, right? But we'll see how that shakes things out. The one thing that can make that outside go at this point in the race is if people bunch it up a little bit too much on the inside and make a little bit too much contact and get people loose. That will force people to the outside lane and almost create a de facto second groove of cars out there that can make things happen. So you just have to watch for that, I think, if you're on the inside lane, and just be careful that you don't run up too much and bump draft too much with the other drivers that are there, because you can make that work pretty consistently. And if you're really good at it, you can hold them down on the inside. So
Set again, Dana Osborne in a brand new car there on the outside. Not sure why Dana's 25 laps down though at this point, and why they're back out on track actually after this. But right now Kelly Dahl leads the outside line there with Rod Flagg behind them, and number 10, number 9 even behind them there of Groover. Bassini, Berger, Brown, and on the inside Scott Warren holding firm on the low side against the attempt by the outside. Flagg will drop back down. We think he does just that as they run towards 1, leaving a very lonely Kelly Dahl and Robert Groover up on the outside. And they should drop back as Kelly Dahl, though, was hoping for a spot but not going to make it in time. Is forced to stay high.
Yeah, unfortunately, he has to stay out there with no help down the long back straightaway here, and you can see just how quickly that draft catches up to him, and unfortunately, he's going to lose 3, 4, maybe 5 positions by the time it's all said and done. He may even lose more if he can't get to the inside line quick enough. He does have a little bit of help coming behind him with the number 9 of Robert Groover, but now Kelly gets into the inside line and leaves Robert out by himself on the outside line, and we're starting to see that single file racing begin to form back up. And Rachel, I have to wonder if maybe these drivers are trying to form up to get ready for green flag pit stops. We have been green for almost 20 laps now, so these guys could be getting into that point of the race where they are starting to think about coming to pit road, and they're positioning themselves to get on pit road cleanly without having to worry about being side by side. That's certainly something you don't want to be doing when you're trying to go from 200 miles an hour down to just 55.
So he does. As the number 9 slots in line, single file, and we cross that halfway point tonight. Let's take a look at our iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing, with officially sanctioned racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, World of Outlaws, and more. Well, let's have a quick look at what our field's doing tonight. As we approach pit stops, Chris Bassini out front with Andrew Berger in second. Travis Brown, Scott Warren, and Rod Flagg, your top 5. Ray Rittenhouse second, Kelly Dahl, Ramon Evans, Michael Cozy Jr., and Robert Groover in 10th.
Frank Buccilia runs in the 11th position, and then it's Corey Henry, one of your championship contenders, in the 12th spot. 13th belongs to Paul Serban. Tom Dreiling belongs to the 14th position at this moment. That it's Jimmy Coleman in 15th, Mike Thiel in 16th, Brandon Montseve 17th, Seth DeMerchant 18th, the last car running on track. And then out of this race already, you've got Dan Harrington and Jason Kinzer, 19th and 20th.
Behind them in 21st is Rodney Wofford, out of the race and out of the championship hopes, as is Brandon Chaburko in 22nd. Behind them is Mike Schultz, Zach Hale, Daniel Osborne, and Gary Champion in 26th place. That's been a look at your iRacing midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can now visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of some exclusive promo codes and get yourself on iRacing with a 1-year membership for half off, or simply give it a try with a 3-month membership for less than $5. Again, that's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. The field is bunching up here actually pretty heavily, considering we thought we'd be approaching pit stops at this point in time, James. Looks like the 94 and the 12 going high and trying to make their way towards the front.
They try, but then, of course, as soon as you say it, they'll come down pit road here in about a lap or two, because that's always how this works here on our coverage of the Superspeedway Cup, isn't it? But as it stands, though, everybody just kind of sitting out and about, and I feel like if there's anything close to a normal pack setup here for this point in the race, it's about what we have. Frank Puccioli is the first car on the outside lane, running outside of Rod Flagg, currently sitting in the 6th position. Those front 5 all single file there, and then Puccioli has got help from Corey Henry, one of your championship contenders, and then everybody's kind of single file on out back, and you've got Tom Dreiling that's just kind of sitting there on the outside as well, though. So just I still think it's a case of everybody just sort of hanging and waiting and just trying to be ready to make a move when something actually happens, something major happens. And just putting themselves in a position to where you can react properly and make the right decision you need to get up towards the front of the field and win this race. You can't really predict it all that well with the way these cars race here at the Superspeedway track, so all you can do is just try and put yourself in position, and for the most part, that's what it looks like most of these drivers at the front of the field are doing.
Certainly is. Basilia and Henry going forwards right now, as behind them the 06 coming with them. That's Tom Dreiling. More cars heading to the outside and going to try and make a run towards the front of this one. As we are approaching pit stops, Brian, we could be seeing cars heading down into the pits in just a lap or two's time. The outside lane, I think they're committing to try and get to the front here rather than thinking about pitting.
Actually, I went back and was looking at the numbers, and I had a little bit of Jacob Steelman math going on for just a moment. They went back green on lap number 35, so right now they are at 21 laps on the racetrack. So by that number, they should be able to go about another 8 to 9 laps before they have to come to pit road for fuel. Unfortunately, my math skills just not all that great. It's still a little bit better than Jacob's. We missed Jacob, but just a little off right there, unfortunately. So these guys still have a few laps to go, and that gives guys like Frank Busilia and the points leader coming into tonight, Corey Henry, a few more laps to try to work their way to the front. And you can see they are starting to make that outside line work. They've got about 5-6 cars up on the outside line, pushing them closer and closer to the front. And that spells trouble for the race leader, Chris Bassini, because Corey Henry's in that outside line. And that's the one thing he did not want to see at this point in the race.
Certainly not at all. Corey Henry inching himself closer to being in position to win this race. And certainly being in a contentious position for entering the pits in a few laps' time, as mentioned. But James, this race has been quiet for quite a while now. We've had our longest green flag stretch to the date. We're going to have to try and find some wood to knock on, I think, at this point in time, because this is normally when things go wrong, when we mention how green it's been. As they all dive to pit road, could this be that time? We'll see if it's a good stop. Bassini leads them in.
Here we go, everybody coming down pit road. Looks like everybody got in clean for the most part. I have to see if any speeding penalties result there. You have to watch out for that, especially at the plate tracks when the difference between pit road speed and actual race pace is so great. But looks like everybody gets another stall cleanly for the most part. So now watching to see the order off pit road. Bassini was the one that led them in, and he may well be the one to lead them out. Yes, he will, ahead of Berger, and then Seth Merchant with a really strong pit stop there. And then Scott Warren, Ray Rittenauer, Kelly Dahl, and Ramon Evans all coming out. And that group, maybe with the exception of Evans, I'm a little bit worried about how far back he is in comparison to the rest of these drivers. But everybody else that I just mentioned, there should be able to reform a pack and get back to race pace without too much trouble.
We just saw pit stops for your next group of cars, including Corey Henry, your points leader, into his box. At a good stop here for him. It'll be up on his jacks for right side tires. Will it be 2 or will it be 4? It's 2 only for Corey Henry as he'll head off pit road. Will come off 3rd in line, but that's where he started. He'll pass Rod Flag though. Good stop by Corey Henry, gaining a spot there on Flag. The pit stops have been slick so far tonight, Brian.
Yeah, pretty clean pit stops for all of your front runners, including your 2 championship contenders. Both Chris Bassini and Corey Henry seem to get on and off pit road very, very easily. And now they are both just trying to get bunched back up, get into a line with a couple of cars, and see if they can get in a good draft and maybe get away from one or the other. But we do still have about 3 drivers that have not made their way to pit road. There are 3 drivers that have no implications to the championship battle. Paul Servant, Robert Groover, and Tom Drilling just riding out there right now. It's going to be interesting to see. It looks like the 8 once again blows a motor. Dana Osborne was right behind Paul Servant, and he was pushing him, and unfortunately, he just blew another motor, and now these drivers are coming to pit road. But, look at the 9. He's getting sideways coming on to pit road. He spins out coming on to pit road. Robert Groover did not make it down to pit road speed. He locked the brakes up and unfortunately comes to pit road sideways.
So he does, but look to our lead of the motor race right now is Chris Bassini and Andrew Berger. Huge head of steam from pitting a lap earlier. Well, they nearly made it back past your 94 and 12 cars who pitted second. But James, they haven't done it. The steam just boiled off for them as the run came to a grinding halt, coming out of 4. And right now, the tables have turned. The lightning pit stop by Corey Henry and Frank Pacilia III puts them to the sharp end. Chris Bassini, for the first time in this last run, he's relegated down to 3rd, going to be 4th place.
Last thing you would expect to see, right, is the 2 championship contenders trying to work together. But they did there for a moment, and then believed that Henry thought better of it and decided, wait a second, I need to beat this guy, and got back down to the inside. So now it's a matter of just trying to clear those cars that came up pit road a lap later. You see Paul Servant in there getting passed along with Tom Dreiling there in the 06. So they'll try and form up on the very back end of this group or the next group that's coming behind them. That's Rod Flagg, Jimmy Coleman, Scott Warren, Ray Rittenauer, and Kelly Dahl running a very neat quintet single file there to bring everybody back together, or at least attempt to bring everybody back together. Meanwhile, Pizzini goes under Henry, so Henry will slide to the back of this first group that's single file here, and Virgilio will still lead everyone down the back straightaway.
Interesting choice by Corey Henry there, Brian. He seemed to want to drop out of line himself and went to the back of this lead group. Something tells me he wants to ride right now. He knows he's in the spot he needs to win. This way he hasn't got people crowding him for a lead.
Yeah, just looking to see what happens here for Frank Busilia, but how about Corey Henry? He was up there in the 3rd position. He'd moved to the outside line, and nobody went with him, and now he drops back to 6th. He's behind Chris Pizzini, but he's in a position now where he doesn't really have to worry, and as we get to the second half of this race and inside the last 35-40 laps of this race, you have to wonder how aggressive Corey Henry's going to be. He knows that Chris Pizzini is his only competition now that both Brandon Jaberko and Rodney Wofford have been wrecked out, so he only needs to finish within 2 or 3 positions of Chris Pizzini to win the championship. Does he go for the race win, or does he just go for that position where he knows he's close enough to win the championship? We have to wait and see how aggressive Corey's going to be in this part of the race.
I think that's where you have to be smart, of course. Corey Henry knows if he's a spot or 2 behind Pizzini, he wins. He can play safe, he can race smart, and he can win a championship. And James, that's what championships are made of.
Consistency, which is harder to find at a restrictor plate track than it is just about anywhere else that you would ever race on. But somehow, some way, we've got 2 drivers in Chris Pizzini and Corey Henry that have managed to find it. That's why they're running for the championship tonight in the first place. But it's not necessarily always about the win in this case. And I think especially here, if you can run with the good points day mentality, that can really do wonders for you. And it's not necessarily completely crazy to think in situations, though. It doesn't apply this year that, you can run a full season without necessarily winning a race and still be the champion. Austin Dillon in the now Xfinity Series a few years ago is probably the most recent example of that, but it can apply in other places as well. Maybe a little bit more extreme version of that mentality than you would like, but it works. If your goal is the championship and you just say, I'm going to try and go consistently top 5, top 10 every week, I'm not necessarily concerned about the victory, I just want to make sure I get good points. You do that week after week after week, I can guarantee that most people in a series won't be thinking in that mindset, and all of a sudden, you'll be near the top of the point standings.
Just got an interesting point across from Brian, and we'll come to you on this one, Brian, but you made a very good point just now. Corey Henry hasn't won a race this season. He pointed his way into the chase. He's stayed in contention through points. He has been Mr. Consistency, but if he wins this race tonight, as you mentioned, without winning a race, he'll be the 2nd champion in a row as the drivers will go round. Travis Brown for the lead, pulling to the high side. Frank Busilia the 3rd, Chris Pizzini, Berger, and Henry pull to the middle lane and will just blow past the 01 of Brown. He'd be the 2nd champion potentially in a row to go a whole season winless.
Yeah, and the other driver that won the championship last season just so happens to be the 4-time champion of this series, and that's Andrew Berger, who currently sits in the 3rd position. He's on the outside line behind Chris Pizzini, trying to get up there and go after. He got his first win last week at Talladega, his first win since last August during the Season 12 campaign, so a very impressive win for the number 24 machine. But for Corey Henry, he doesn't want to join that statistic with Andrew Berger. He'd like to win this race and win the championship. What better way to go out on top than to win it all in the final race? And he's got a fast enough car. He's in a good position. If he can get the right run at the right time, we might be talking about this driver winning not only the championship but the race as well.
Certainly could be, as Frank Busilia III will lead the way in tonight's race ahead of Travis Brown. The number 77 of Michael Cozy Jr. ahead of them, the 13 of Henry. Well, he's finally ahead of Chris Pizzini in the running order. If they stay this way, Chris Pizzini is definitely under threat. but they are teammates, so expect to race clean but hard against each other as James Piscini goes high again. Berger will look to help him, but it might be too early. He pulls back down. Now is not the time to strike.
Early, I think, is the perfect word for it. 32 laps to go here. One when they cross the stripe as they come out of turn 4. So you've got some time, but I think it is good to be thinking about what kind of moves you want to make and how you want to get up to the front of this field at this point, because it's about now that you have to be formulating your plans, beginning to execute on those. Good to have an idea in mind. Not maybe quite the time to start really making the moves that'll sort of shake this group up and try and get yourself towards the front of this pack, but just about time to make things happen. Watch for things to really start to get going within the next 5 to 10 laps, especially up at the front of the field, and maybe more so towards the middle and the back of this pack.
It certainly is, and as they'll come past the 9 car, who now will go a lap down. Not the position he wanted to be in tonight's race, but unfortunately, that's where Robert Greenwood has found himself. 14th place now, scored 1 lap down. 13th, the last car on the lead lap. Ramon Evans, who's lost the draft as well, will be the next victim of this field. Last real runners here, Raven out second, and Kelly Dahl in 11th and 12th in a tandem draft together. The back of your pack starts at 10th place. So our lead lap pack is only 10 cars strong as Travis Brown will contend with Frank Basile the third here, Brian. Past him will go to 77-2. 2 newer drivers of the series will scoot past the veteran, and one of them makes it though.
Yeah, and that one driver is going to be Travis Brown. He got the run. I think he was trying to bring the 77 of Michael Cozy with him. Unfortunately for them, the run stalled out, and he wasn't able to bring them both, so he had to drop to the inside line to take the race lead. That leaves Michael Cozy out there all by himself, and he's going to drop backwards as he's already dropped back 3-4 cars on the outside line, still looking either for a spot in on the bottom or for somebody to jump up and try to help him. Unfortunately for him, neither has happened as he continues to drop back. But how about Travis Brown? Like you just mentioned, Rachel, he's a rookie to the series. He's coming in on the season finale, and he is showing some amazing poise against these veteran drivers, going up against drivers like Frank Busilla, like Corey Henry, Chris Piscini, the 4-time champion Andrew Berger. He's out here racing these guys as if he's been racing with them for years, and it's his first race with them. That's pretty damn impressive if you ask me.
Certainly is very, very impressive right now as things get a little bit heated now on lap number 71 on 72 here. There will be 28 laps to go in this motor race. The 01 leads at 94, the 12, the 1, the 24, your top 5 here today. 32 behind them of Dexter Merchant. He's a lap down in 14th, but still a fast driver in a fast car. I seem to recall he was airborne a couple of weeks ago at Talladega. That guy has certainly seen a lot during this season. It's a real shame he didn't make it through to the finale of the chase, but as a past champion, he knows what that feels like.
Well, and I think the important thing to remember is that if we have a yellow and if the merchant can avoid getting any damage, then he'll be the first car 1 lap down, and we all know what that means. So not necessarily over for him yet, but you just have to keep your nose clean, which is makes it a little bit surprising to me that he's running in the middle of this pack, but they're all running relatively peacefully for now. But I think we all know that, especially at a track like this is just the calm before the storm, and we're only waiting for things to get a little bit more exciting and a little bit more drastic and action-packed here within the next few laps.
Certainly is. And, well, as the race will continue here, we're winding down the laps, heading towards what it will be another green flag pit stop. Take a quick look at when we saw those pit stops happen at last. Last time by, the drivers were in on lap 59. Let's call it lap 60, just to be mathematically easy. We'll be looking at about lap 86 for our second and final green flag pit stop in this sequence. And, well, guys, that's about 12 laps away. We're halfway through this stint. Are we going to make it that far?
Well, I believe that these drivers are going to have to come to pit road just one more time, based off of when they began to make their green flag pit stops just a handful of laps ago. I believe they'll have to come in at least around lap 80 to 85, depending on how far you want to stretch it. But from that point on, they're good to go to the end. Certainly a one-stop race, which can play a little bit of strategy into this race as far as when you want to come to pit road and how far you want to go. The thing about that is the sooner you get on pit road, the less fuel you have to put in your car, the quicker your pit stop is. You could potentially get out in front of some of these drivers and maybe try to score a win. And if you're Chris Passini or Corey Henry, get ahead of your championship rival and try to win the championship. This is a big moment and a big strategy call by all these teams out here on the track right now.
Here's a fun question for you, James. Is it going to go too wide once again? Led by Rod Flagg, leading the second line forward with himself, Scott Warren, Seth the Merchant. The three of Savant is old. They'll come in now. I was about to ask you that question, but we're in the window now. You can go to the end from this point, and as I was about to say that, they did just that. We've had Basili the third, we've had Henry, Passini, and Berger, all with the same idea.
Your championship contenders both come in on the same lap. If I'm Henry, that surprises me a little bit, but I think it's one of those cases where you just kind of have to hang on and see what happens, because at this point, the way they've been running, I think the most likely way you end up successful in your championship hunt, especially if you're Henry, is if Passini runs into some form of trouble. So just going to stick with him and see if you can sweep past the wreck that hopefully collects Passini if you're Henry. But the way they've been running, I'm not necessarily convinced that that is even going to happen, because they've been so clean at the front of the field, and Passini's had a very good nose all night of just finding his way into good places that keep him near the front of the field, and I think most importantly in his case, safe. It's been a very smart race from that one car, and I see no reason as to why it would change by default. The only thing I think that would is if something happens that's outside of Passini's control that makes him go use his quick fix.
Certainly could do indeed as well. Chris Passini has still got that ace up his sleeve, and now he's paired up and has to work with his rival and teammate, the number 12 of Corey Henry. Behind them, well, Andrew Berger is the odd one out at the third wheel at the date here, as Frank Basile the third will pull a bit of a gap actually up front. These guys might choose to dump him or sit behind at number 94 McDonald's machine. They choose instead to ride in line here, as well, we'll see if the rest of your field choose to come down pit road or wait till lap 86 as we thought. Right now, they're staying out of the racetrack. This could be a very tough decision to work out. We've got a big pack right now, Brian, leading the race. We've got a smaller pack with your race leaders who pitted early. Will the gap be opened or closed?
Well, for Chris Passini and Corey Henry, yes, they of course want to try to win the race, but now as we get to the final 20 laps of this race, we're under caution here at Daytona, so that changes everything. Trying to find what brought the caution out. Actually, a pretty good little wreck here on the back straightaway. Looks like the 61 of Mike Thiel and the number 9 of Robert Gruber. A two-car wreck, actually not a big wreck, but a two-car wreck puts the caution out here and changes everything. This is a good position if you are Chris Passini, Corey Henry, because now they've been on pit road for fuel. They don't have to come back to pit road. They're going to go to the front of the field when the rest of these drivers have to come in under caution and give up their track position.
You know, this looks like a carbon copy, James, of the wreck we saw at the start of this race. The number 9 getting on the inside corner of someone and bumping them in the corners. Second strike for the number 9.
Tough one, I think, to swallow if you are that 9 car of Robert Gruber, and it's been a really, really tricky night for him. He got caught up in wrecks early and then managed to slide down pit road and spin out. And it's just been one of those cases where sometimes you need some luck to make things happen at plate tracks, and the Golden Horseshoe has just not been with that 9 car tonight. So not necessarily happy, I think, with the way this night's going to play out. Not a fun end to his season, but figuring he'll try and regroup next season and make things go a little bit better. That being said, though, I think you bring up a very good point in that it does create some interesting strategies here for Passini and Henry and everybody that came in right before that yellow. And then you look at some of the folks that haven't come in yet who need to come down pit road, and we could end up with a small split, but an interesting split amongst this lead pack of drivers.
Well, they've all done just that. They've all come down pit road to pit there. So we've just seen Henry, Basilia, Piscini and Berger inherit what will be the race lead, I believe, once these lap cars get waved around for them. This should see them back up to the sharp end, so I believe at this point it will in fact be Frank Basile III. Race conditions, yellow flag here on lap 80. Will be 20 laps to go. On this restart, every car will be able to make it to the end of this motor race. Folks, we're going to step aside for just 1 moment's time. After this will be green flag right to the end of your race.
I actually raced at Speed Weeks in 2015 for my first time. And before then, I was racing a super late model on iRacing at New Smyrna, which is where Speed Weeks takes place. You know, I made hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of laps there, done a bunch of races, and I went down there for the first time in my real car, and I was rolling down pit road, and it felt like I had been there before. My first time out on the racetrack, I think I was first or second quick. I was actually racing on an indoor kart track, and a guy by the name of Bobby Waltrip, Michael and Daryl's brother, commentates that race down there. Long story short, he saw me, saw my talent, put me in a late model, and he says, you know, you're only going to get about maybe 20 races throughout the year, and he told me about iRacing and be a good way to try and get seat time outside of the race car. So I looked it up, and sure enough, it was cool, and I was hooked from the beginning for sure. I use it as a really, really good tool to visualize racetracks, coming in and out of pit road, being consistent. You know, the thing about iRacing is I just use a laptop on a desk. And at the end of the day, you don't have that butt feel that you do in a real car. You have to see the car get loose before you can feel it, because you can't feel it. And I think that makes me better when I hop in a real car and I can feel it. Coming up through the ranks of iRacing, I wasn't always the best. I lost a bunch of races. I was a top 10 car, and pretty soon I was a top 5 car, and now I'm pretty much winning on a regular basis. So I think it correlates consistently to real life, because you do have guys on there that do it every day, and I think the level of competition is definitely correlates to the ladders you need to take in real life as well. Members come up to me all the time, and they think it's just the coolest thing that iRacing's on the car, because it's something they enjoy and it's something that they can relate to. Obviously, I love having iRacing on my super late model and now my Xfinity car, just because it's been such a big part of my life and a big part of my career, and how I've gotten to this point, and to carry their colors up through my late model ranks and now the Xfinity, and having them on my debut is definitely really.
Welcome back here on lap 82, Daytona International Speedway, and the green flag will fly. We are 18 laps to the finish here, 18 laps away from crowning a champion here on season number 15 of the Superspeedway Cup Series. Two drivers in contention, the one on the front row outside, inside second row, Corey Henry, your points leader. As things stand, Henry will win your championship as he pushes Frank Bracilli III out ahead of his teammate and championship rival Chris Bassini. Andrew Berger alongside him, not able to do anything to stop them.
Everybody's still 2 behind 2 for the moment, but that could change very well here if they decide to get down to the inside lane. You see one driver in the back there trying to make it happen. Scott Warren gets down to the bottom. So now you've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars really up on the outside lane, and you're about to lose one because Paul Servant's going to go to the back of the field. No, he gets the help from Mike Thiel, and then Thiel decides to go back down. So yes, Servant will go back to the back, and it will be just the, 3, 4, you've got Bassini, Berger, and then a little ways back you've got Cozy and Dahl. Those 4 holding down the outside lane, but for how long is that going to work? And who decides to go jump up with them, Rachel? That's the question.
So it will be the question, and right now the question may remain unanswered. Kelly Dahl in the 77 car of Cozy Jr. will stay up high. Bassini and Berger up ahead also, but Berger will duck down and leave him. Chris Bassini, his hopes may fade like the draft he once had, but looks like he's getting a little bit of an assist from Bracilli III up front. The side draft off the 10 of Rod Flag may hold him here for now, but just like his championship hopes, the draft is slipping away, Brian.
Yeah, unfortunately for Chris Bassini, without help, he will start fading here on the outside line, and we're beginning to see that. He's trying to side draft for everything that it's worth. He gets right on the right side of the cars on the inside line, almost made contact with Rod Flag, now is almost making contact with Scott Warren. He's doing everything he can to try to stay as close to the front as he can, but unfortunately, the longer this goes, the further he's going to slip back. And now here comes the 24 of Andrew Berger back to the outside to get behind Chris Bassini and try to assist him, and now he's got a couple more drivers coming with him. It looks like Travis Brown in the 0-1 and Seth the Merchant jumping up there as well. Travis Brown's trying to decide which lane he's going to go with. It looks like he's going to go to the bottom, and now it's just Andrew Berger and Chris Bassini again on the outside, looking for help from Seth the Merchant. Rachel, just a couple of car lengths back, but not close enough to really give them the assist they need. But how about Chris Bassini starting to power back on the outside line?
Yes, they are, and the Merchant's actually closing that gap now to Berger. This could be the assist he needs. Never have I seen a driver and a car cling so desperately to his position on the outside lane there as I have with Chris Bassini. Andrew Berger giving him the assist now, and this could have been the move that made this race. Chris Bassini holding on by the skin of his teeth there. Now comes the assist in the form of the 24 and the 32 behind him. Kelly Dahl will drop back. De Merchant has the draft of the 24. He'll close in on the 2 cars heading to the front. Bracilli III pulls out, but Bassini will pull alongside him, James. This could be him with that chance now at passing Henry.
I think we have to say something about the Merchant there. We talked about how he had been a lap down for a good chunk of the middle portion of this race and just needed the 1 yellow to get back into contention so he could get that lucky dog. And then you have the trouble with Robert Groomer, and all of a sudden, here's the Merchant now running on the lead lap and back in the mix of things, trying to race for the victory. So big credit to him for hanging on. The question is, who goes with him? You've got a series champion back there, and you figure someone's going to jump out to the outside to help him. And now, here we go. 12 laps left. You're starting to see that outside line form. Travis Brown goes to the outside, and then, of course, the Merchant goes to the inside as soon as I say something. So, you still got Brown out there, as are Berger and the 1 car. And here comes Corey Henry, and Dahl gets a little push. Is that going to be a problem? No. They're going to keep it together somehow, but Dahl's going to lose a lot of time. That will effectively split this pack here as they come to 11 to go.
It certainly will be. We'll try and get a replay of what just happened there, but wow, big tap from the 76 of Warren onto the 10 of Flag. His Pontiac Grand Prix will drop to the apron, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Bit of a side slap, but he holds on to it. Some heroic driving there. A fantastic effort by Rod Flag to hold that car in one piece. Wow, that was very nearly a humongous wreck. I was about to say Corey Henry went to the point, but Passini's just nipped past him, abandoning Andrew Berger on the outside. After all the help he gave him, Passini is at the sharp end. He may win this race, but it may not be enough, Brian.
Unfortunately for Chris Passini, he can lead all he wants. He can win this race right now, but with Corey Henry sitting right behind him in the second position, it will not be enough. He needs Corey Henry to lose 2 positions on the racetrack and still Chris win the race in order for him to have a shot at winning the championship. Unfortunately, right now, he's in a great position, but it's not the position he needs. So he's out here leading this race, trying to hang on, but at some point he might have to be a little aggressive, see if he can't try to shake his teammate and get him shuffled out of line to lose a couple of positions. Or he's going to be looking for that number 94 machine, the 01, the 24, maybe try to team up and go around these guys and see if he can't utilize that draft. There's a lot of decisions for both Corey Henry and Chris Passini to make inside these final 10 laps.
Certainly is right now, as this race could still take any number of turns here on the racetrack. At Daytona International Speedway, we hit lap 90. We are on 10 to go, this time by 10 laps remaining in this season, 10 laps in the championship hopes of Chris Passini, Andrew Berger, and looks like Frank Bachillier here going forwards. Could this be the interruption and the intervention that they need? The racing's hotting up, and well, so is Corey Henry's fear level right now, James. He's got no backup car. Anything that goes wrong now, he is done.
That's the scary thing, isn't it? That he's in such a good position right now and would win the title as it stands. But if one thing happens, then all of a sudden this becomes Chris Passini's championship to lose. And they're racing at 190 miles an hour, and it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a knife edge at the moment, but it's so close. When you think of it in those terms, you just have to be wary of anything that happens. And if you're Corey Henry, I think you almost do everything and then some out of the extraordinary just to make sure that you're there at the end, because that's really all you need to win this championship.
It certainly is, and Frank Bachillier will get a nose ahead of Passini here on the outside as they'll head into 3. Won't be clear in time to pull down. He might, he is, he does. 94 down to the lead on the low side. 24 once again, forever the bridesmaid, never the bride, left out to dry with the 76 of Scott Warren, Brian.
How about that run on the outside line for those 2 drivers trying to get around Frank Bachillier, who is now the race leader. He's trying to hold off Chris Passini and Corey Henry. But now you have to wonder, how aggressive does Chris Passini get? Does he stay with his teammate, or does he jump up in front of Berger to try to take the race lead back? This would be an opportunity for him to put a couple of cars between his championship rival. His teammate, but his championship rival. He chooses to stay on the inside line right now. He's clear to go to the outside whenever he wants to make that decision. Now he's actually not, as Berger was able to get to his right rear, but as they work through turns 3 and 4, he's able to get back clear of him once again, and now he has to make that decision. Will he stay in line and help his teammate, or will he try to jump up there and help himself? We're in the final stretch of this race, and at some point, I believe, Rachel, you have to decide you don't have a teammate on the racetrack anymore. You have to go out there and think about yourself. We're getting to that point of the race where I just have to imagine they have to start doing that at some point.
The second we ticked past 10 to go, teammates went out the window. Right now, the 1 and the 12 are not friends. Those 2 are rivals. And right now, Chris Passini is doing everything he can to save his hopes and his championship. It's looking futile, but he can at least try to win this race and see what happens to Corey Henry. That is out of his control. Right now, there's one target for him. That is a 94 of Frank Bachillier III and Andrew Berger coming up on the outside. Those are the only cars in his life at this time. The 12 car. He could be anywhere else. Right now, that cannot matter to Chris Passini. Bachillier III controlling this race, giving draft to 24, but then taking it away. Cruelly dashing that run towards the front. Won't be enough at this time though, but big run starting now as behind him Travis Brown pulls out. And it's 3 deep for your lead at the motor race here on 95. Heading into lap 96 as they'll come through 3 and 4. Any caution now, folks, will end this race, James.
4 laps to go, this time by at the stripe, and they're starting to get antsy at the front of the field. Last thing that Corey Henry wants to see, you saw Machilia get a little bump from that number 1 of Passini as they came into the tri-oval, got the rear end of that 94 just a little bit loose. It's the last thing you want to see if you're Henry, but if you're Passini, you've got to try and do something, anything at this point. Throw out every single card you have, because as it stands, Henry's going to walk away with the championship with ease. You've got to try and find a way to get to the front of the field.
You certainly do here, as 96 will go into the books through turns 1 and 2. Up onto the backstretch. No, tri-oval here at Daytona. I got my corners mixed up. It was 3 and 4. Bashilia still holds on just at the front here, controlling this field with expert fashion. Frank Bashilia, let's not forget, is a former champion from season 6. He knows how to race these super speedways, and he can certainly control a pack. Big props to number 01 here, Travis Brown, keeping himself in contention for this race in that top 6 pack, and a newcomer to the series. Fantastic racing from him, especially to be up here amongst the old guard of the Super Speedway Cup Series. Bashilia, Berger, Warren, Henry, and Passini. And right now, Corey Henry must feel good. He is in a fantastic spot for this race, although lap traffic ahead, James, could change everything.
Could change everything, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue. I think only 2 cars here. Doesn't look like they're going to catch them before we get to the back straight away. The only problem is that if they race like that and they create a little awkward split there, one goes low, one goes high, but main group of that field comes through cleanly. So now it will fall upon Branson Monteface to make sure that he gets out of the way for these cars to race this final lap and a half. Buccilia still with the lead. Passini in second. Going to be tricky, I think, for him to win the championship now. And a yellow that happens would cause the yellow. So now you're just racing your pride, racing for pride, racing for the race win. 2 laps to go as they come down the side.
Passini motor. Chris Passini blows his engine onto lap 99. Tragedy strikes for the 1 car of Chris Passini. With that motor goes his hopes and his dreams. Corey Henry, the number 12 car. The backup of the 1 doesn't matter, there's no caution. He is out of the race for all intents and purposes. Corey Henry just has to finish at this point, and the championship will be his. But will he win the race? To cap off a winless season, can Corey Henry do it once this time? Or will this be a potential Newman championship? We'll have to see as they come across the stripe now, onto the final lap. Frank Bashilia third, Corey Henry 1-2, 76 of Scott Warren, the 01 of Travis Brown, the 24 of Berger on the outside. No help for Berger. Can he keep himself there? Will anyone go with him? Not enough of a run to make it worth anyone's while, as the 01 will blow his motor also from pushing the lead group. Here comes a run for the 24. Will it be time for the 12 to go? It is the time. The 12 pulls to the outside of the 94 of Brasilia the third, and round he goes. Corey Henry nearly wrecks his car. Can he hold on to it? No, he cannot. He does. He just manages nearly. He's up in the fence. Corey Henry wrecks it. Seth DeMerchant will come across the line as the winner in the final round of the Super Speedway Cup Series. Season number 15. Tom Drayling in the 06 will come home in second place, and Andrew Berger in third. What a final lap, Brian.
Absolutely incredible, but we do have a little bit of a situation forming, as Corey Henry has not been able to make it back to the stripe, and Chris Passini is still coasting around on the infield. Now it's going to be interesting to see where they all shape up. This could be a big change in the championship battle.
Hold the phone. He's going to make it to the line. Hold the phone. Chris Passini will blow his engine and roll that car across the finish line. Where does this place them? Has Chris Passini managed to blow his engine and steal a championship? Servant's getting to the line. His engine's still running. Thiel is going to cross the line also. But they're both a lap down. No, they're laps down. This will not make a difference right now. Servant will matter. Can he make it to the line? Corey Henry has scored 1 lap down. Can Paul Servant cross the finish line in the pit road? Or is his race over? Does he know? He will cross the line, we think. Will this tick him ahead of Corey Henry? It will not. They're separated by only 1 position here, down in 10th and 12th. What does this do to the points?
I believe your champion is still going to be Corey Henry because there's not going to be enough positions between Chris Passini and Corey Henry for Chris to be able to overcome the championship. We'll have to wait for the official confirmation from the series admins. But my belief, with only 2 positions being between Chris Passini and Corey Henry, is that Corey will still be your champion when it's all said and done. I believe he's going to have roughly 4 to 5 points over Chris Passini when it's all said and done.
This will be a close one, folks, and well, laps led and most laps led will definitely be a factor in this. We are going to go to a quick commercial break here on LSRTV. Stay tuned for the final results from the stewards and the post-race interviews. We'll be back. We need to catch our breath. Welcome back, race fans, to LSRTV here in the Superspeedway Cup Series. We're just still catching our breath after a phenomenal end to the race. 2 contenders, one blows their engine going on to the final lap. One of them wrecks it in turn 3. Doesn't make it to the line, and the guy with the blown motor limps across the line ahead of him. What a race we've witnessed here tonight, and a fantastic piece of Superspeedway Cup history has been made. A new champion has been crowned. We've had the points crunched. We've done the math. Corey Henry in the 12, Season 15 champion 2017. What a result in the most dramatic fashion. Well, first up tonight, we'll get a chance to chat to your champion this season, Corey Henry. Corey, this is the chance, the point where you talk.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are you so excited by your championship title you just were lost for words?
No. I was muted. I didn't expect to get moved up.
I gave you a huge introduction there, and you just fluffed the whole thing. Corey, you're a champion. How does it feel?
I can't put it into words. It was a long 6-month battle. We give it all we got. We were trying to go for the win. That win eluded us all season long, and we had a chance for it there. And then it's just good hard racing. Me and Frank. He was coming up to get the side suck, and I was getting a little push from the 24, which kind of knocked me sideways, and it was just a storm waiting to happen. Everybody running for the championship tonight, I really got to give a shout out to them. We had a pretty tough night. Rodney, Traburco, and me got caught up in a wreck very early on in the day, and we had to go to a normal strategy of just ride around and survive to the end. And Chris, he never did get caught up in any trouble, but unfortunately he had overheated engine and blew up. And at that point, it started sinking in that I was going to win. So coming to the white flag, I was content with riding with Frank until I seen the 24 and 32 coming with the head of steam. So I had to jump up in front of them. I mean, I felt pretty good in points at the time. I really pushed it. I didn't know Chris had that reset, so he came back out. He finished, I believe, 10th, and we got 12th, but fortunately we had that 10-point gap. And we were trying to win it there at the end, but
Corey, he didn't come back out. He stayed out with a blown motor to just about roll past the first finish line in that one.
Okay, yeah.
So that was a close-called one.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't expect it. He blew up with 2 to go, so I felt pretty confident in points at that point. So I was in contention for a win, and like I said, it eluded me all season long, and I was wanting to get the win and be able to win it outright, kind of like they do in at Homestead, win the race, win the championship. I was wanting to do that and do some burnouts, but unfortunately, just hard racing. Me and Frank got together into 3, no hard feelings, and I think I took Rod out trying to save it, and I was bouncing off the wall, trying to do everything I could to get back to the line just in case. But overall, great season. Yeah, I'm sorry. Good.
No, I was going to say absolutely fantastic, but anybody you'd like to give a shout out to for this one?
Yeah, I got to always give a shout out to my dad. He's watching every year. I'm sure he's tickled to death watching live on LSRTV. He wasn't sure if we won the championship there at the end or not, so he might have had a little panic attack. But we got it, and want to give a big shout out to everybody at DHI throughout the year. This wouldn't be possible without them. Big shout out to Chris. He paints all of our cars. All the cars look great week in, week out. And, of course, he's the one that does all the fuel strategy and stuff, and you've seen earlier tonight. We got out and had a great pit stop again, all as a competitive group. And a big shout-out to Rodney. He's helped us a long way throughout the season, and I hate to see him have trouble and get completely knocked out before halfway even came out. And then also Derek Walker, Greg Hooks. They're kind of hiding in the shadows. They helped me get to where I was at also throughout the season. I wouldn't have my consistent finishes. I think that was I was heading into my 11th top 3 of the year before that final lap. So I wouldn't be able to do that without them. And as always, everyone here at LSRTV putting on a show every week. And this one will definitely be a race that I'll go back and watch over and over. in the coming months for sure. And Rod Flag, as always, for bringing us out every Friday and allowing us to get together. Same group of guys, very competitive group, very competitive league. So if you're out there watching now, this is the place to be for super speedway racing. It doesn't get any better than this. It came all the way down to the wire, literally to cars wrecking and blown up to come to the championship. And that's not what it's all about, but I mean, that's what happens with super speedways. It's always, at any given point, anything can happen. And it's fun week in and week out. So big thanks to Rod for bringing us out here every week.
Certainly is. And speaking of Rod Flag, we're going to hand over to the series organizer, Rod Flag, right now to present the championship.
Thank you, Rachel, and I want to thank all the drivers of the Super Speedway Cup for a great season 14. If you're again interested in being a part of our league and starting and hanging out with us and driving on Friday nights, our season kicks off on July 7th with the 10th running of the Super Speedway Shootouts. We'd love to have you go to superspeedwaycup.com/join. We'd love to see great applications and to get some great drivers in here. But as I walk up here on the podium, I want to stare Corey in the eye here for a few seconds and congratulate him on a well-run season. Like him, I think Andrew has one as well, but you don't have to necessarily win a race in a season to win a championship. It's about consistency. It's about being upfront when you need to be throughout the season. And Corey is going to join the group of Super Speedway Cup champions, and he is the 8th overall Super Speedway Cup champion, but the overall season 14 champion. So I want to congratulate Corey Henry on a great season, and congratulations.
Thank you, Rod. It means a lot. Been here a few years, raced. I can't really count how many seasons I've actually been here, but I know it's been at least since halfway, and I appreciate every Friday night you bringing us out and letting us do what we do and have fun. And I can't tell you how big this league has gotten from your under your wing, man. You've given us everything that we've ever needed. You always are willing to listen, and you bring in input from everybody, and that's really what the league's all about. Just the same group of guys. We've had the same core group of guys, which you know, and I know we're kind of entering a transition period right now. But I'm here with you till the end. You've stuck with it through the ups and downs, and I will too. I just wanted to let you know that I'll be here as long as I can be, and I can't thank you enough for allowing us to come out and hang out. And you've been very influential, so I appreciate it, and thank you for another great season.
Yeah, before we go, I also just wanted to thank, welcome Seth the Merchant back to victory lane. That was a great finish of the race. And how about them green flag finishes we've been having these last couple of weeks? Pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah. Really exciting.
Certainly have been, of course, here in the Super Speedway Cup Series. And once again, congratulations to Corey Henry. And thank you very much to Rod Flag, who is just up here with us presenting the championship. Speaking of which, we are going to send James Pike down to pit road this time to chat to your race winner in victory lane tonight. Seth the Merchant is with James Pike.
Here in victory lane with the driver of the number 32, Seth. And Seth, that last lap was, it just had everything, it seemed like. So just take us through what you saw through that windshield, because it was crazy from our perspective.
Yeah, going into the last lap, I didn't really think I had a chance. I thought I could maybe sneak up into third there because me and Tom were coming with a really big run as we were just catching back up to the field. And I don't know, they just all started wrecking in front of me, and I barely squeezed through, almost got clipped in the left rear as I went under Andrew, and we just barely made it through. Me and Andrew doored coming to the line and just was able to get him.
How big how big was it though for you to fight back through this race? It's not a script that is, unique to Super Speedway Cup and not something that we haven't seen before, but you had to battle back from a lap down in order to get this victory. You were waiting for the yellow flag would give you the lucky dog through a good chunk of the middle portion of this race. And how was that, just sort of riding around waiting, knowing that you needed some help? Was that nerve-wracking, or did you get the sense that it was coming, and did it worry you? Did you put any pressure on your sort of self? What is that sort of like for a driver if you're in that situation?
I pretty much thought my race was over because it seemed like we were in a really good green flag run. Everybody was kind of spaced out, and I had some internet issues early in the night after I was running really good, and I thought it pretty much put me out of the race, and I didn't think I really had a chance. I was pretty much just riding around, and we got that lucky caution there with about 20 to go, and I was able to drive my way back up from the back of the field up to a point where I could probably contend, and then lost the draft. And if it wasn't for Tom pushing me back up there on that coming to the white flag, there was no way I would have won that race because I was almost 2 seconds off the lead with like 3 to go.
And then we look at your final stats for this season. Not a full schedule, but of the 8 races you ran, 4 of them read first, second, second, second. Former series champion, we know, but I don't know. Maybe you want to come back and run a few more of these, because clearly it looks like you've got the hang of this.
Yeah, I wish I would have run more of the season. Just I've been having a lot of internet issues lately that haven't let me be able to race at the times I want to. It's really bad. So I think we've gotten it fixed for the most part. You know, it showed up for the first time tonight in like a month. So hopefully next season I'll be able to actually run all the races and be able to compete for the whole 100 laps.
Before we let you go, we'll give you a moment to give your shout-outs, your thank yous, your acknowledgments to everybody that makes it happen for this 32 car and that team. Who do you need to give thanks for this victory tonight?
Just 6-Man Inc. And P-Money Designs for painting the cars, and Rod for putting on the league, and congrats to Corey on the championship.
Well, thanks for the time, Seth. Congratulations on the victory, and hopefully we'll see you at the beginning of next season without any internet issues. So there is Seth the Merchant, your race winner this evening. And now we will move to Brian Macklin, who has made it with the runner-up of tonight's race, and that is the driver of the number 06, Tom Dreiling.
I'm down here on pit road with Tom. Tom, you had a great run here tonight. Your best finish in your 9 races so far this season. Take us through your night, and especially the very chaotic last couple of laps, trying to chase down Seth the Merchant, and then on the last lap having a couple of guys blow motors, and then the wreck going into turn 3. It was a pretty wild lap for you.
Well, I got to say the race was pretty eventful, to say the least. I got to say I'm sorry to the 61 for getting into him early. Had a brain fart, put me a lap down. Worked my way back. On that last lap, I was pushing the 32. I didn't think I had a chance at anything much. Seas parted and almost got to the win. Going to stick with the 32, and then all heck broke loose. Seas parted and almost got to the win.
Yeah, if it weren't for making contact with Andrew Berger coming off turn 4 and stalling your momentum, you might have been able to get to the door of Seth the Merchant. Was there a point in the last 5 or 6 laps of this race where you felt like you had a chance to win the race, or were you more concerned about just not getting in the way of the championship drivers? Until Chris Bassini had his engine issue, they were both up there racing for the championship. Were you concerned at all about that, or were you just focused on trying to go for the win?
I was making sure to stay away from the 1 and the 12, let them fight out their battle. With a couple laps to go, I didn't think I had a chance at a win. Best I hoped was a top 5.
Well, you obviously only ran 9 races this season. Can we expect to see you running another part-time schedule in the upcoming season, or are you looking to go full-time in season 16?
I'll be looking to go full-time for the season 16.
Well, we absolutely look forward to that and wish you the best of luck for that championship run for you in season 15. Before we let you go, Tom, just want to give you a chance to say thank you to your sponsors and say hello to any friends or family that might be watching. Who makes it happen for you on the 06 machine?
I want to thank Greg for coming up with my great paint schemes from I Can't Design. I want to thank you guys for putting on a great show as always. And Apex Racing, they do a wonderful job as well.
All right, well, congrats on your good finish here tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next season here in the Superspeedway Cup Series.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, that was Tom Dreiling. He finishes second, his best finish in 9 starts this season, and he gets a great run here tonight. Now I'm going to move just a little bit further down pit road, where I'm going to catch up with our third place finisher, Andrew Berger. Andrew, you won last week at Talladega. You finished third here tonight. A pretty good way to end the season for you.
Yeah, these last 3 weeks were certainly the best 3 weeks stretch of my season this year. Had a tough start in the middle of the season, made it into the chase, but unfortunately didn't make it to the last round of the chase. I actually think I was looking back and I had the best three finishes in the last part of the chase, but oh well. No, Corey deserved it, so congrats to him. He had an amazing season. His consistency paid off. Got to tip my hat to him, but yeah, this was a crazy race for sure.
And you talk about consistency. Yourself and Corey Henry are the 2 drivers that have won this championship without going to victory lane. How difficult is it to do that, to run all season long and not necessarily get the finishes you want, because obviously you're not going to victory lane, but at the end of it, you come away with the championship? How difficult is it to do that week in and week out and just not get to victory lane like you're wanting to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, like you said, but at the same time, consistency is sort of my MO. I mean, sure, you want to win the race, but if you're racing for points, I mean, at the end of the day, that'll get you to the final round and where you want to be, and then you can race for the victory. No, I mean, Chris had crazy amount of top 5s and second place finishes, so I feel bad I didn't get the win here tonight, but yeah, it was just congrats to him on an amazing season, and hopefully we'll be racing for it again next season.
You came into this season as the defending champion. If you had any advice to give to Corey Henry moving into next season, what would it be?
Try to avoid the wrecks. Just be, again, consistent next season and hopefully stay out front. I mean, we had a nice green flag run there, and we were all teaming up there at the end just to stay out front with the green flag pit stops. But, I mean, who knows week in and week out? I mean, it's tough to stay up there sometimes with the guys. I mean, these are all some of the top guys on Superspeedway racing. So, I mean, it's not easy to stay up there, but I mean, if he just stays consistent and tries to stay out of trouble, I think he'll probably be racing for one again next year.
All right, Andrew. Well, before we let you go, we just want to give you a chance to say thank you to your sponsors and say hello to any friends or family who makes it happen for On the 24 machine.
Yeah, I mean, I just got to thank all the guys that were helping me tonight. I mean, working with Chris real well tonight. Sad to see Frank as well didn't get the victory. I know it's his last race for the time being, but yeah, I mean, the season was fun. I hope you guys had a blast as well covering us, and I know we'll come back next season and hopefully put on a show. I just got to thank Rod for doing all the hard work he puts into this. I know it's sometimes stressful and aggravating at times with some of the drivers, but no, he does a great job, and I sorely appreciate him for all that he does. So, of course, got to thank you guys for the great job that you guys put on each week. Thank you, everybody.
All right, Andrew. Well, congrats on your third place finish here tonight, and good luck next season.
Thank you.
He came into the season as the defending series champion. He comes away with a third place finish in the season finale. Andrew Berger in the number 24 machine. Now, Rachel Whiteford, you caught up with our champion. You're going to run it with our championship runner-up, Chris Passini, down on pit road.
Listen, thank you very much. And yes, we have caught up with Chris Passini. Chris, that was a very mixed final lap, and you looked like you were the best car in terms of position for most of this race. You had a backup car remaining. The others in the field did not. You blew your motor coming to the line and somehow managed to pass Corey Henry, but just not enough other cars passed him. You were so close to your first championship, but as I heard you mention to another driver, at least your teammate won. Is that consolation?
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, that was a whole range of emotions in a matter of one try over there. I was trying so hard to push Frank to clear Andrew, and my oil got to 289. My water never overheated. I was trying to keep it cool at the same time, and I finally got outside, and the motor just popped, and I was just putting along, hoping for anything to happen at the end of the race, and it did, but it wasn't enough. I had Rodney yelling in my ear. He's like, "They wrecked. Keep going. You can do it." He's like, "You're gonna pass him." I ended up passing him, but just wasn't enough.
Well, it was close run to the end of this race. Of course, having a teammate into the finale, a huge advantage for your team, of course. Dark Horse, one of the more organised teams perhaps in the series. You guys always seem to hook up together well. Just how hard was it to compete against your teammate?
Well, it sucks, really. We were pretty much working together for the entire chase, even into the last race, till we got through the final pit stops, and we don't have to worry about anybody else. We were just going to try to fight it out, and basically it was going to come down to whoever won the race was going to win the championship. And it was unfortunate that it ended the way it did. But it's bittersweet, though. I mean, it sucks for me, but I'm still so happy for Corey that he got a championship.
He certainly did. Well, we talked to Corey, of course, about his sponsors. A lot of yours are the same, of course, for the team, but it makes it work for you guys and the number one.
Well, first, I always want to give a shout out to my dad because he watches every week. So we'll get him next season. Thanks to my teammates, Corey, Rodney, Andrew, for being a big help tonight. Frank for just sticking with me, saying he was going to give me everything he got when he could. And you guys for broadcasting, Rod for putting on the league, and we'll get it started again next season.
We certainly will. Thank you very much for joining us, Chris Bassini. Second in the championship this season and coming home today in the 10th spot. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you hopefully next season, Chris.
Oh, trust me, you will. I got a fire lit under my ass right now.
Well, we hope to see it. The fire, not your ass.
Nope.
Well, with that one, we're going to wrap things up for tonight, folks. It has been a fantastic season here with the Superspeedway Cup, guys. Season 14 is closed, but you know what? Season 15 is just around the corner. There is so much left to play for, and these guys, they're fired up to do it again. A big thanks to Rod Flagg, VP, Frank Bashelli III, and Larry Camp, Kelly Dahl, and Jason Altmans from the Superspeedway Racing Club for all their work behind the scenes, bringing the on-track action to us on Friday nights. For more information on LSRTV, you can find us online at livesimracing.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/livesimracingtv for the latest information on when you can find us here next on iRacing Live. I have been Richard Whitefield. I've been joined by Brian Macklin and James Pike. As always, the lovely and talented Francisco Scaramuza in the booth. Good night, guys.